Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I'll be doing Lair of Darkness. Now, unlike the online video I showed earlier, this one is a more normal going first build. The going second build was a strict test of the format to see players' ability to go second, and it's a lot more valid than a lot of formats we had, but I just wanted to get a normal vanilla go first combo here. So go first combo, yeah, in a trap deck. So I'm just gonna show off this build, and I'm gonna say there's a few choices I want to test out that I just didn't have, and it's not because of price. It's because the set is brand new and the cards didn't get here in time. But let's just go ahead and get into it. For the monsters, triple Lilith. Best card in the deck, this plus Lair, is a quick removal that your opponent cannot respond to until it's already happened. It's why monster negation is so completely irrelevant against this deck, because even if they negate this, I took your thing off board, so it makes it not matter. It's like spell and trap removal are the things you have to worry about. But next, double Alice. Yeah, this is a going first build, but it's still really good extender. And yeah, even though it's a trap deck, it just being a way to float into Lilith is what's so important, rather than what it actually does. A lot of people don't like this card at multiples, and I even see some people try to say, oh, don't play any of it. That's such a bad opinion, because this card's explosiveness is just so incredibly understated. And the fact that this can search not just any Lady of Lament, but specifically Token Collector, just always has its level of usefulness in the deck. So yeah, two of that, and then one Malice. Whenever we get the new Lady of Lament, Loris or whatever her name is going to be, this could either go down to 0, or you could just play 1 and 1 of that, because Loris has some pretty cool applications with Time Seal. Even though I think Time Seal is awful, terrible, abysmal, you can still do some really cool things with it in this deck, where you pretty much, once you establish Loris Lilith, you establish Time Seal for the rest of the duel. And unlike Yugioh, you don't even have to do anything. You'll just passively activate Time Seal over and over and over and over and over again. So that's pretty cool. But that's it for the Ladies of Lament. Next, for the pseudo Lady of Lament double tour guide, I think you guys heard my little lore about this, where both Beat Cop and Tour Guide have a few similarities with them, but that's just a theory, a game theory. Yes, it's incredibly fragile, but hand traps have a natural ineffectiveness against trap decks specifically. Unless your hand is only draw and search spells, which can happen from time to time, but hand traps have a natural ineffectiveness against decks like this. But it can also bait out the hand traps that you are worried about, which is almost exclusively Ash Blossom. You don't really care about any other hand trap. But because of that, you usually want to hold this until a follow-up turn or later in the duel. To use it as a really power play, but you can start with this turn 1, and plus the deck just needs consistency boost, because these cards aren't that searchable, but Tour Guide is a way to search them by just pulling them out of the deck. And then one Sangyan, it's used for the ties combo, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that. That's it for the level 3 Fiends. For the level 4 Fiends, and it's really the only one, Triple Arima. Like I said before, this card got way better once we got Heavenly Prison and Alice, because it went from literally not being able to search anything but the field spell to being able to search Alice and Heavenly Prison, which, speaking of that, Heavenly Prison, because you can search it, I didn't feel like playing 3, and it itself doesn't do anything. It only helps defend against, only helps defend your back row, but if you don't have a lot of back row, or you just don't draw it in an ideal time, this card just really sucks, which is why I'm not playing 3, and that's justifiable because you can search it with Arima, so you don't have to see it, and if you want to see it, you have the chance to search it. And finally, If you don't know Lair of Darkness, this will look sussy, but it'll make sense once I explain it. 1 Ash Blossom, 1 Effect Veiler, 1 Token Collector. So, the ties combo is about searching a trap and a hand trap with Sangan. So when you ties over something and you bring out a Sangan and Lilith or Sangan and whatever, when you tribute the Sangan with Lilith, you'll get a trap. Then afterwards, Sangan will search a hand trap. And the thing about searching a hand trap is hand traps actually suck in this deck. It's a trap deck. What's the point of holding your opponent off for 1 turn if you're just going to be setting cards in front of them? That doesn't get you much of anywhere. It only delays unless you have some proactive play to go with it. And even though you can do that, it's not ideal, and it's not something you want to clutter up in your hand. You don't want to, like, draw 2 to 3 hand traps that then do nothing, and then your opponent just plays on the following turn. That doesn't do anything. But having the ability to search a hand trap with Sangan specifically allows you to make every 1 trap you get with Lilith 2 traps, a trap and a hand trap. And in addition to that, you don't want to clutter on the exact same hand traps over and over again, which is why it's like this weird ratio of 1-1. Also, I play some extra deck targets that make it very relevant that they are tuners. Then the final one is Token Collector. Yes, you can search it with Sangan, but what we're actually doing is when we ties one of them, we're going to bring out Lilith, Sangan, and Alice. And if we don't have Lair of Darkness when we do this, we're going to tribute the Sangan to get a trap, and then either Effect Veiler or Nash. On our opponent's turn, we're going to tribute the Alice to set another trap for the follow-up turn. And then instead of search another Lady of Lament, we search a Token Collector. So basically, we search 2 hand traps, 1 live trap, and a trap for the follow-up turn with this Lilith. And if this wasn't the ties target, it'd be at 2,000. So they have to play through 3 disruptions to get over a 2k beater, and you still have 3 cards not recognized in that hand. So very good. And that's it for the monsters. For the spells, Triple Lair of Darkness is where the deck gets its name. Once we get the Labyrinth cards, I'm going to be experimenting with them a lot, because you could do some cool stuff with the field spell in this deck and its own deck, because I think I've shown this off before. Like, if you draw Lilith plus that field spell, it's just an infinite fiend and an infinite trap. And plus, we also get Archfiend's Glitch in that set, which seems very good in this deck. Then the other engine, Ties the Brethren. This allows you to make a consistent hand. This is like a secondary Lair of Darkness, not in application, but in specifically letting you do something powerful. Because you're bringing out 2 tribute bodies, and the bodies you're bringing out are floaters, Alice and Sangan. And because they're floaters, you can get extra value off tributing them in the same way that Lair of Darkness does, where you're just tributing your opponent's monster, so they take a -1 and you get a +1. That's a lot of card advantage very quick. And Ties of Brethren does a very similar thing to that. And then finally, 3 Extrav instead of Prosperity, because, yeah, Prosperity can search the specific point you need, but I've explained this before in a video. The reason I don't play Prosperity in Lair of Darkness is the only time it's good is the first turn of the duel when you have Lilith or Lair, and you're playing a specific extra deck. But if you're not doing any of those 3 things, it's actually just worse than Extrav, because if you draw neither Lilith or Lair, searching one of them doesn't achieve much of anything, so that's not important. And if you draw both, then just grabbing a random trap, especially when your opponent gets to see it, is not very good either. So a lot of times it's just better to almost always draw 2 outside of very specific scenarios, or your extra deck is very important. But if it's not, then this is fine. And then for the traps, so this one can be interchanged with Sanctum or DDG, but right now I am testing D-Barrier in the main. Yeah, in the main. So, if you're playing against a Link deck, if you're playing against a deck that doesn't get hit by this, the rest of my traps I decided will be the ones that kind of interact with that. But otherwise, if it's like against Branded or Sword Soul or any of the bullshit Synchro decks, You just hit them with one of these, and it slows them so far down. And it can also do something against an established board, whereas Sanctum and DDG don't do anything. But if your opponent controls like 2 synchro monsters, this can turn them off or like forces a negation out of them immediately. So this can like already interact with an opponent that is played, which is so good. And even if it doesn't hit everything, it hits so much in the current format that I decided to play it. And the rest of the traps are traps that hit what this card can't. So this is fine. And it's the only 3 of trap. For the next one, we got 2 Ice Dragons. Now, this is the card I said I wanted to replace with something else. It would either be Torrential or a new card released in Defo. It's like called Ledge Book or whatever. And it's just a double Farfa. You banish 2 monsters till the end phase and your opponent gains life. The life points don't matter because this deck will snowball so hard that there's no life points that it won't reach when you're on 0 cards. So that's fine. And because it takes tokens off the board, they never come back. So that is pretty cool. I wanted to test that one. And then I wanted to test Torrential. So this could be either of those. And you could also do it with this card as well, or even this card. So these cards, including Torrential and the Ledge Book, these traps all do something in common where they can interact with a card on board outside of arguably Torrential. They can interact with monsters on board without your opponent actually doing anything. And that is so important because if they already have game on board and you set 3 traps, they're not inclined to play more. They don't have to do any more than they already have. So a lot of the times you can beat them with like a Torrential or whatnot just because they don't have anything to go with it. But if you like Ledge Book, Dogmatica, Compulse Ice Dragons, like you immediately force that kind of interaction. And like I said, if they have like a lot of fusions or synchros, when they go to try to negate them, you can just debarrier it and then they can lose almost everything. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then Imperm can also do a similar thing where it can like catch those non like debarrier calls. It does the same thing. You just hit them with a take off the board card and then they try to negate it, you imperm it, and then they lose a whole bunch. That's kind of the idea of it. And then finally for the last 2 of Back to the Front, this isn't a trap card per se. It's not actually a trap card. It is just a pink spell in this deck. Your deck, if you're not careful and you're not keeping a close eye on your resources, you can get broken out of the Lilith Lair loop. And if you do that, you need like a Back to the Front or Alice to get you back into it. But if you get a Back to the Front into it, it means that Lilith can try to save itself from being locked out of the loop, which is why this card is so important. But again, it is a pink spell, so it's just a very, very slow monster reborn. But it being searchable matters a lot. And plus, you have value summoning cards on your opponent's turn. Then finally, the last one, Trap Trick. So the reason it's a 1-of is not because of its effect at all. It is because Lilith needs to reveal 3 traps. And if you want a specific trap, you would have to reveal 3 normally. But I didn't want to clump up on repeating cards. So I just reveal 2 of the one I want and then 1 Trap Trick. And then you're getting it regardless, which is pretty nice. But that's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, let's get into it. Now, I've also explained this before. Even though I'm playing Extrav, I do not believe in clumping of the exact same cards at like 2 or 3. Like, especially not 3, because that only matters if you're playing Extrav in a deck where your extra deck actually matters so much. And in this deck, it actually doesn't matter at all. The extra deck is literally like an old school extra deck where everything in it is an option. It is not a requirement. You don't have to play a single card in this extra deck. And even though Super Poly is good against Branded, I didn't want to play Super Poly or any of those targets either. So I was just testing out some cards. So for Punishment, because it is like important to the deck, it's like the only one I'm playing 2 of. But pretty much my theory is I'm going to play this as a regular extra deck, and then when I resolve Extrav, that tells me what options I actually have access to. So, 2 Ins for punishment targets, 1 Herald, and 1 Altergeist. I'll explain that in a moment. So yes, you do make this by having a level 3 and an Effect Veiler, because Back to the Front can pull out an Effect Veiler, and when you do that, you can just make Arc Light, and then it's an Omni Negate to go with the rest of your board. And when you have Lilith Lair, this is never getting beat over, so that's funny. And this card is all the Altergeist-based effect, all the like effects involving Altergeist doesn't matter. The only effect we care about is it's a generic synchro, in that when it's tributed and sent to the graveyard, you just special summon it out of your grave. That's once per turn. But it enables a lot of OTKs with like Lilith and Malice and some other side deck card you'll see soon. So this could do some pretty cool things. I like it a lot. But that's it for the fusions and synchros. For the XEs, we got Break Sword. This card is really cool when you have Sky Prison, because you Sky Prison, protect your back row, and then you target a back row and an opponent's card, destroy your opponent's card, your back row is protected. Because it says destroy them, doesn't care if both get destroyed. Olivier, this is okay, but it's actually really good against Shifter if you decide to play Shifter. But it's also good to go with Ice Dragons or the Ledge Book I was talking about earlier, because their banish is temporary till the end phase. But if you decide to make Levier, you can bring back one of their banished things. It doesn't come back for them, and you can use it to your own effect, which is actually pretty cool. And in the DD package, the rank 3 DDD, which is just made by 2 level 3 Fiends, and then this, and it's a double, like, almost Millenniumized Restrict. It's a weird disruption, but it's still a pretty good one. And then Zeus, because it's broken. And then lastly, for the links. So 2 Dark. I honestly felt like this was the only one that was, like, arguably important. The reason that is because once you out Mirror Jade, but you can't OTK, one thing I'll do is I'll poke for all the damage I can, and then main phase 2, go into Dark and just let it die. And that will allow me to search like another Lilith or a Tour Guide or an Arima. So you can, like, after you've done everything to the branded board, you can just float into this, and it just allows you to float into something you need. But more importantly, we'll get to it soon, but this card is just very, very good. Next, we got Beat Cop. It's the only card, and it's the only time this card has a relevant effect ever. So basically, when it uses 2 dark monsters with different names for the Link summon, it gains the effect that you contribute 1 monster, hey, Lair of Darkness, and then target a card on the field and place a patrol counter on it, and if it would die, it just removes the patrol counter instead. So you can protect Lair of Darkness, your tributors itself. You can just protect anything with it, especially into simplified game state. If it's just tributing your opponent's monsters off to protect itself, it can be the thing that finally snowballs them out of the game. So, very, very good. And then Nightmare Unicorn, you usually make with Dark. Just steal a Dark out of their grave, go into Nightmare Unicorn, call it a day. Same thing with this, Decode Talker Extended. It's actually a better OTK enabler than both Access Code, Boral Sword, anything you can think of. This card is much better at OTKing with in this deck, because not only does it gain attack equal to its point to, but when anything gets sent to grave that it's pointing to, like a Lilith that tributes itself, it gains an additional attack. So it enables a lot of OTKs in this deck, especially with that Altergeist Synchro. And then finally, the last one, the 15th extra deck monster, is Access Code Talker, which I actually don't like at all in this deck normally. But because people are testing the Sussy Imposter deck, I wanted to have this, and that's why I also played a second Dark. So if you don't know, Access Code, when it's Link summoned, you target a Link and it gains attack boost equal to its Link rating times 1,000. But it doesn't target monsters in your graveyard. It actually targets Link materials in the graveyard. Because of that, what you can do against the Imposter deck is make Gloomy, take their Templar out of the graveyard, which is a Link 3, and then you make access code, and it'll be at 5,300. So you don't even need to make access code conventionally to beat that deck. You can actually just make Gloomy, and it literally gets you there. So that's why I decided to play that, the second one, and access code, and it's pretty funny because this is like it's the only type of monster this deck cannot out is a Towers monster. And not just a Towers monster, but a very specific kind of Towers monster, like the big imposter, I can't remember its name, and then like actual towers, because they say they're unaffected by card effects, whereas most Towers monsters nowadays say they're unaffected by activated effects. But Lair of Darkness tributing your opponent's monster doesn't activate. That is a continuous effect, so you can just ignore it most of the time. But when it comes to like the imposter or Towers, or even when it just comes to those two, that's where it matters. Because even like Miscellaneous Saurus doesn't protect dinosaurs from Lair, so it's actually pretty cool. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Actually, I got a side deck, but it's not that important. But I will show you some examples. Here's some tokens. 2 Dark Kaiju, Pankratops is broken, and basically this side deck is a transition to going second. You pretty much side in 12 cards that let you go second. So we got double Dark Kaiju Pank, triple Econ, a Change of Heart, Terraforming, because when you're going second, seeing the field spell is even more is like actually much more important. So just playing a 7th copy when you're seeing 6 cards is really good, and then like Evenly Matched and the Final Imperm, and you just side all these in when going second. And what you can do, since you're the one that's creating the go second build, like even if you lose game 1, you can just decide to go second. So they think, oh, I'm gonna side in all my anti-back row cards. Then you just side all this in, force them to go first. They have dead cards in their main deck, and you can just blow them out with cards like these. And then even if you win going first, they're going to choose to go first, so having all these extra go second cards is nice. And then finally, if like D-Barrier is incredibly ineffective, and more importantly, you just need extra power going first, you have DDG. And this could be like any Solemn or Pointer, but DDG just, it doesn't even matter. It gets hit with Lightning Storm or Feather Duster, it's resolving that turn. So the only thing they could have is Reboot, which is a 1-of that should be banned anyway, so there's not much you can do about it. But yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to make another version of this deck for people who want to go first. And it's understandable. People like just setting trap cards with this deck. It's pretty proficient at it. And then the Labyrinth cards are coming to us fairly soon, so we'll get some cool tools with that as well. But yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. And remember, Master Dinnerflax will take your soul.